This is Amplify You, the podcast about you discovering your message and broadcasting it to the world. If you're a coach, author, or speaker, you'll want to tune in. If you're looking for the best return on your time investment to get your message out to the world in a bigger way, we're giving you full access and behind the scenes look of how we're running our podcast, how our clients have found success, and what you can do to launch your podcast today. The world needs your message. I'm Michelle Abraham, the host. Join my family as we unleash your unique genius and find the connections you need to launch your adventure today. Join us and let's get amplified. Hello, Amplify You. Michelle Abraham, your host here today. Guys, I'm so excited to bring you this behind the mic interview. I have not one host, but I have two hosts today. In fact, they're co-hosts of 360 Wisdom Speaks. I'm very excited because these ladies are so awesome. They're our Potapalooza hosts they came in, and I first met them when they were hosts on Potapalooza. Now they're coming back again to do Potapalooza again, and they've been interviewing so many incredible people on their podcast. Let me introduce you guys to Nicole Borghi and Beverly Zeimet. Sorry, Beverly. I knew I was going to do that. Beverly and Nicole, welcome. Nice to have you guys here.
Oh, we're glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is going to be absolutely a blast. We're ready for it.
Awesome. I love it. So let me just share a little bit about Wisdom, 360 Wisdom Speaks. So it's a podcast where you guys help illuminate the souls with quantum frequency, vibration, and inspire one to live their life to the fullest. So I love this, guys. You know, this speaks so deep to us at Amplify You and a lot of the clients we work with and a lot of the shows we work on. So it's no wonder we all get along so well. So let me turn it to you guys. How did this co-hosting partnership work? I want to dive into that because it's a whole other level of kind of podcasting with someone else. And then also tell us a little bit about how the idea of the show started.
Well, thank you for that introduction. You know, we both were doing a podcast. Beverly and I were both doing separate podcasts, and we were sharing guests back and forth. And we're like, you know what? Let's share this. Let's amplify this. How can we compound this energy and work it together? And so Beverly and I became co-hosts. We started working together and say, you know what? It's always better and it's absolutely more fun on the ride when you're supported, when you're in that conscious connection with someone else, because there's just times that your partner keys into something else. They key into something else visually, mentally, emotionally, and it's just a great way to have a compounded conversation and be part of a group and be part of that momentum moving forward.
Yeah, I love that someone to like help keep the energy out and bounce questions off of. And hey, how cool is that? I love what you said where you guys were both interviewing people, same people, swapping back and forth interviews. Is like, why not we just like do it all together? And that way, you know, you get to both interview the same person at the same time and put all your energy into one show. That's awesome. So Beverly, how long have you guys been doing this together for now?
We started in August and actually launched it in September. And it's taken on such a life of its own. We're so excited, you know, that it has really gone the direction it has, you know, and we did our press releases and stuff. And we're just getting some of the most marvelous, you know, speakers out there. People are finding us like all over the place. So obviously we're doing something right. And so we're going to continue to keep on doing whatever it is we're doing, right? And, you know, it's all about that collaboration, but it's also bringing hope and guidance and direction to others out there, you know, to where we want to change humanity. We want to make things a better place to live. We want to make each and every human out there a better them, you know, and if we can do that by sharing stories and helping other people understand that, hey, you know, just because you've had a challenge, it doesn't have to define you, it doesn't have to make you who you are, you know, and find your identity and just be vulnerable and be open and share with others, you know, what you did to overcome that and learn from others and how they overcame. And that has been a really, really good protocol for our show. And some of the stories are like, they're mind-blowing, and exciting and fun, but everyone has their own little glitch in there and their own little niche and their own little, I did it. Right. And that's where that support comes, like Nicole was talking about, is being able to feel that support and to be able to let people have an expression and just be who they are and speak that truth that's their truth. Right. Because it's a story that needs to be told.
Yeah, I love that you're pulling out those inspiring stories. And what I found in the podcasting space too, it's not necessarily the successes that people in the audience can relate to. It's those like things that they've overcome. So that's awesome that you guys bring that into the conversation. And you guys, we're going to talk about this in a little bit. I would love to know your guys' tricks for like balancing, like co-hosting and like who gets to ask what questions and when. And do you have little signals or things that you go back and forth with? So, but before I ask that, I want to dive into a little bit about like your guys' background. Like what were you doing before you guys came together on this podcast? So Nicole, I would love to hear from you.
Well, actually, my career was totally different for the last over 20 years. I'm from law enforcement and security. And it was really watching that chaos out there to say, how do I transform this? How do I transition this? How do I help people become a self-leader? How do they get to that self-mastery? And really, it's that leadership background that I honed in on and said, you know what? How do we become the leaders within and stop being triggered constantly and be triumphant? And in that, it's really developing the self. It's really watching who was I inside? Who was that shadow self? And that's kind of how we work with a show, is really awakening from those backgrounds and saying, how do we put this together and develop people? As an entrepreneur, we want to know your spirit's journey and your heartfelt business. We want to understand that. But as an entrepreneur, there's so much leadership you have to have and so much energy and strength and that kundalini or that chi that you work with. How do you build that and put that into your business and propel that? And that was part of that, really developing the shadow self. So watching that chaos and really cleaning it up and saying, okay, how can I wave my magic wand and say, ding, everything's better? Well, I can't just do it myself, and I can't hold the burden, because as healers, we always try to hold that for others and in service. That's not the way. It's really allowing them to develop themselves, and that's that magical. That's really the magic that has changed so much.
That's awesome. And would you find that like as you're gone on your spiritual journey, it's also helped like, with having the podcast and being able to share all those moments with all your guests too?
Oh, 100%. It was really in coaching, in the holistic sense, and saying, you know what, how do I share with these people, in a nutritional sense, in their temple, in their body, to say, wow, how do I make this that perfect person, or how do you become that perfect? What's perfect for you on that path? And that's really taking all the equations of that person and putting them into one. And that was part of developing my journey as well, as getting on my journey in business, is saying, oh, okay, it doesn't work the same. It's not a cookie cutter for everybody. Everybody needs a foundation. But how do you get all the frosting and the sprinkles? And do you even want all that, right? Do you want chocolate or do you want vanilla? What's your flavor? What makes you you? What makes you shine? And we're all different. And how do we get that? And so watching that develop has been really integral in the show and bringing that all together to help us one by one guest at a time, developing that strategy and that protocol for the show to really put it together and just compound it into everything that we do and developing a business through it.
I love it. I think that's really unique what you guys are bringing to the table. Beverly, what was your background before you started doing the podcast with Nicole? I love how she starts with a laugh. That's great.
Sell sandpaper to body shops, okay? And anyways, I was in the automotive industry, and and it all actually started after I lost my true identity. After I got married and had 3 kids, all of a sudden I had no identity other than by association. And that wasn't my life. That's not the way it was supposed to be. And so, it was a struggle of a journey to get through and to get over and figure out who I am and where am I going. And I ended up, leaving little farm country USA, moving to big Denver, Colorado, getting a divorce, taking my 3 kids, and ended up selling sandpaper to body shops and starting my own business. Went to 6 figures in 6 months. And, it was an interesting life because it was not a woman's world. We're talking back in the early 80s. Okay. That didn't happen. But you know what? When you have a drive, whatever that drive is, nothing's going to stop you, and for me, it was like the first time I'd ever saw $1,000 in one spot was when a friend of mine gave me $1,000 and said, "Here, go start your own business." Okay, whatever that meant, right? But it worked, so sometimes not knowing anything is better than knowing something. And, and during that process, I learned a lot about who I was and started on my spiritual journey at that point. I was very intuitive as a child. I didn't know that that's what it was because back in the 60s and the 70s, let me tell you, there was nothing like that back in the Midwest. And so helping to understand, where that metaphysical world was and how that came all to being. I was introduced to a few people in Denver that helped me to understand what it was that I was doing. And then in 89, I moved to Vegas. I sold the business, moved to Vegas, and I got involved with a lot more spiritual people with crystals and all of that. And my spiritual journey started to really take off. And I think it was like in 97 when I decided that, okay, I'm 100% done with the automotive and I'm going to jump in an RV and I'm going to just travel the world. And I've never looked back. And so it's just been that spiritual journey ever since in every style and type of modality that's out there, so the energy healing aspect of life is where everything kind of evolves around. Thus, the 360 Wisdom Speaks, came into that being because it was full circle, right? 360. And then wisdom. Oh my gosh, well, I'm in my wisdom years, right? I hope I learned something over all those years, and there's so much wisdom out there that can be shared. And that's what we like to share with our guests and be able to speak. And that's how 360 Wisdom Speaks just came into being, right?
I love how you guys were both in very male dominated, non traditionally spiritual industries, right? Before, I think that gives you a very unique perspective on the very juxtapositions of now, getting connected with your spiritual journey and look where you guys are today. That's amazing. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I would love to know now this might be something you need to talk about for a second, but what was your guys' what has been your favorite podcast episode? And maybe you each have a different favorite one. That's great. I'd love to know what was your favorite episode that you've done. Did you have a favorite guest that you interviewed? What was it? What made it your favorite?
That's not fair. Oh my gosh.
Tricky, right? I know. I thought you guys could both have, we'll go with you guys are both going to have different ones, I'm sure.
I can't say that I really have just one favorite, because everyone is so unique in their own right. And I guess maybe the funniest one that we had so far was April, and she's talking about Alice in Wonderland and her little dream thing that she goes on. It was so funny. Oh my God. We laughed and we laughed and we laughed. But, I don't think there's been a show that we've had, Nicole, that there wasn't some kind of laughter going on. And, we had another gal just the other day, who's like really sassy, and she's got these absolutely beautiful cards, that are affirmation cards. And it's just sexy, sassy, fun laughter that's just really uplifting. So those are the two that stand out the most right now for me.
And so for our listeners who are like, oh, I'm going to go listen to those episodes, it was April, and the other one was with...
The other one was Hallie, and hers hasn't even come to life yet because we just recorded her the other day.
Okay, great. So our audience will have something to look forward to. I'm sure by the time this is live, it will be out by then too. Awesome. And Nicole, what was your favorite ones?
Well, I have to agree. April James is great. Look for the top hat. Look for the gal with the top hat. She's a PhD and she has a theater background.
Oh, fun.
So she's just amazing. It's always fun to have these guests that our guests are even financial with, like Wendy Labatt. I know finance isn't the best, most fun thing in the world, but what she does is she talks, it's real talk. It's the nitty gritty. She's very connected to her angels and guides, and she's very faith-based. But she's so forward and fun about it. And the truth is the conversation, that nitty gritty, fun, whimsical conversation to say, this is me, this is who I am. Like it or not, here I am. And I'm coming at you. I'm coming at you full force. And we want people to understand that, hey, even woke doesn't mean broke. I mean, we're all out there with spirit as spiritual people, and we're serving the community. But how do we put those podcasts out there? And I know, Michelle, you've been just integral with us with Podapalooza and just meeting all these great people and sharing with people to say, hey, this is my brand. This is my business. But with that business, with a heart, we have to learn to laugh and we have to learn to love. And, when we talk about money and finances, that's your solar plexus moving into your sacral into your solar plexus. And that's even talking about our new episode, that sassy fun with Hallie. It's like, you're sassy, you're sexy, you're fun, but that's your energy with everything. That's your creation and your spirit, and we've been aligned with that. And when we have guests on that are just so in their magic and in their space, it is amazing. We had James, the secret prophet, on, right, the other day, and we're getting ready to release that episode in the next few weeks. And he was just so much fun. And he's so forward thinking, and he's just so fun, and he's in his magic, and he talks to so many people, and yet he's blessed us to be on our show. And it's like, we have had so many amazing guests because they're fun, because they're laughing, because they're sharing a story. And I love when we talk about how do we form the show too, I love to find out what's in that shadow self, what's in that soul of you. How did you get here? What are all those fragmentations of you coming into that? And that's that fun part sometimes for me. I know my wicked sense of humor, it's like, okay, I got to laugh at that. It may have been tragic, but when we learn to laugh at that situation, say, whoa, let me just sit back and armchair quarterback my life and say, whoops, I could make a movie out of that. That was crazy. Let's talk about that. And how do you change that and move that in a direction where you can share and transform and grow and share that with other people? And maybe you've had the same experience, or maybe, hey, whoa, you don't want to make that mistake. And it's just so awesome to share those stories.
Yeah, I love it. And it sounds like you guys just obviously love your guests and love your show. And I can tell just by your guys' energy and your passion with when you're just talking about it. Has there been something that podcast has brought to your life that was maybe unexpected by starting a podcast or having a podcast that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, gosh, yeah. It's the podcast itself has branded us into 360 Media. And it's become an outlet for us to put on events, to have a business, to put in ads, advertisement, and really empower our guests on their branding. And so there's so many parts and pieces that have come together and just really blossomed to say, hey, you know what? We can put this is how we can bring healers together. How can we spotlight healers? What can we do with a Zoom call? What can we do on the virtual platform? What can we do with audio? How can you plug in, and why would you want to listen and just plug into that? And it's just become a full marketing, a full business, and incorporating that, putting that together and saying, hey, let's ride this crazy train and make it a business. And we've had so much fun with it, and people have just been on board, and it's our passion and our purpose, and we've aligned it all.
Yeah, I love that. And like our friend Kimberly Crow says, if it's not fun, it's not worth doing, right? So it always makes it so much fun, right? If you know, and that's why I do what I do too, and why I fell in love with podcasting is because it's fun. And often a lot of our clients who are launching their shows, they're a little nervous and worked up about launching it. Once they get going, oh my gosh, it's like unstoppable. It's like their most fun thing they do in their business. They don't want to do anything else. They want to do so much podcasting, right? So I love it. What was it been for you, Beverly?
Oh gosh, what I really enjoy is we get someone that has never done a podcast before. They've never done a show of any kind, and they're like a nervous wreck, right? Oh my gosh, we get so crazy and silly at the very beginning where all of a sudden they get relaxed, and by the time the show is over, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know I could have so much fun." That is music to my heart, is to be able to help those. And when I was doing my show before we started the joint podcast, there were so many people that I had on my show that are now doing their own shows and doing their own podcasting just because of the experience they had. And that just speaks volumes for me, like, wow, to change someone's life that much, to have that expression, and it's like Nicole, this podcast has started taking on a life of its own, and where we're opening things up now, where we're looking for healers, with specific modalities. We want to be able to do some specialty shows, where we're going to just market them as a group, so this could be like a group of healers. And, so, hey, we're putting the word out there. We want healers, man. Come our way, right?
Yeah.
And it's just another piece that's going to do exactly what our motto is, and that is to help humanity have that love, that confidence, that faith, that trust, and that belief in themselves and in others, because it all starts with the self, right? And however it takes to get that information out there. And both Nicole and I are so energized, and so kind of feed off of each other. Sometimes I'm way out here in left field, so she has to reel me in. It's not comfortable. It's not comfortable for me. It's not comfortable for her. But you know what? That's what makes us working together. That's what makes the show what it is and where it's going, is because, we don't take it personal with each other. And it's like, okay, we can make this work. What do we have to do? And we just do it. And we couldn't do it without our guests and people like you, Michelle. Thank you.
Well, that's so awesome. And, as you were saying, your guests have so much fun. It is absolutely true. For our audience, I haven't really talked about Potapalooza a lot because it's something that was so very new in my world. And Potapalooza is an event that I co-hosted, and you guys came in and you were featured podcasters. And the first one we did was in December. And the amount of people who came out of that afterwards and said how much they love being interviewed by you guys was insane. They were all saying you guys are like so great at interviewing. They had the best time on your show. So I just appreciate you guys so much for having so much fun when you're interviewing and just pulling out the amazingness in your guests. So you guys are doing a brilliant job on that, and I congratulate you guys. And I love that the partnerships also, like that's so great being co-hosts. We're able to, share the excitement, share the journey with each other. You both bring something very unique to the table in your interview and in your conversations. So before I let you guys go for today, because I know you are busy and you have lots of interviews to get to, I just want to open it up to either of you guys. if you guys can share something, some advice. So a lot of our listeners are thinking about still podcasting, or they've just started, or they're on their podcasting journey as well. Is there something that you guys would like to share, being experienced podcasters yourself now, with people that are maybe just beginning this journey?
Right. Thank you for that. I love that. And what I always share with guests is that, what are you talking about? What do you have to say? What is this? We all want to share. So many of us have a story, but what does that story say about you? And it's kind of like speaking, right? On a stage. What do people want to hear? Is it about you or is it really about them? And it's always about your audience. And what do you have to say? And what's the longevity with this? And if you're doing it for business purposes, it's branding your business, and people want information. So give it to them, share with them.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there, Nicole. One thing I would like to add is it's your opportunity to be an expression of yourself, right? And we do video and audio. Some do only, one or the other, but we do both. So the options are there. And the show that I did before, the theme was being the best you that you can be. And I live that theme for my life, because go out and be that best you that you can be, regardless of what it is. And every day you'll just get even better and better and better. And when you can live your life being the best you that you can be, there's nothing else left to be, because now you're living in your truth. You're walking your talk. You're just being, and you're coming from the heart. And that's what it's all about.
There you go, guys. You've gotten the wisdom from 360 Wisdom Speaks, ladies. So thank you so much for joining us, Beverly and Nicole, today. You guys have been absolutely a blast. And I just want to send everyone to your show. Go check it out, you guys. 360 Wisdom Speaks. You'll find it on all the major podcasting platforms out there. Plus, you guys, is there a website that you want to send them to as well?
Sure, it's good. It's 360 Wisdom Speaks.
Okay, well, there you go. Well, that's not difficult to remember. So, guys, it'll be in the show notes as well. But 360 Wisdom Speaks, you'll be able to find all the information and all the great episodes these guys have talked about today. Make sure you go look for the lady with the top hat. She was awesome, apparently. Need to go listen to that episode as well. So, Amplify You family, thank you so much for joining us today in this awesome interview. Nicole and Beverly, thank you so much for spending your time with us today. It's been our pleasure to have you on, and we hope to have you back again. We'll be seeing you at Podapalooza coming up in a few weeks. So Amplify You family, you know the drill. Your uniqueness is your genius. Go out there in the world, be yourself, and these ladies are perfect examples of that. Thank you again, everyone. Have a great week.
Thanks, Michelle.